Hi, welcome to Lesson 5 in Unit 1. This is all about getting ready to play, and so we're going to be working a lot on our left hand positioning here. I'd like to talk about the 3 P's, which are placement, position, and pressure. So let's talk a little bit about placement. The idea of placement is that our finger is right behind the fret, and so if the fret is here, my finger is just behind it that way. It's not in between the frets like this. It's right behind the fret. It may even appear on the video like I'm on top of the fret. I'm not on top of the fret. I'm just right behind it. And that's where you're going to get the best sound when we push the string down to the fret. So that's placement. It's getting those fingertips placed right behind the fret. The next thing I want to talk a little bit about is our hand position with our left hand. And there's some basics. Of course, the most important thing is to have that neutral wrist, whether it's this way or this way. We want it as neutral as possible. That being said, when I go to reach to the low string, my wrist may bend a little, especially if I'm playing like a chord like this. But in general, we keep that wrist neutral and move our hand across the neck so that our wrist stays pretty consistent. My thumb is riding on the upper shoulder of the neck. This is the shoulder of the neck, and it's up the upper part of it. And the thumb joint is kind of backwards. It's not bent this way. And it's making a firm contact on the back of the neck there. Not necessarily with the tip of my thumb, but where the knuckle, right under the knuckle, basically. And we'd like the joint where our fingers join the hand to be lined up with the front edge of the fretboard. So we don't want it back like this, and we don't want it too far forward. We want it about like that. And then our fingertips are bent. And I often talk about it sort of like holding on to a bicycle handlebar we get a nice bent finger tip, and that is how we're going to contact the strings. In general, the only contact points are our thumb and our fingertips. Occasionally, this knuckle may brush against the bottom, but it's not really a contact point. It's more of just, that's what happens when you play guitar. So that's our basic hand position. I'm going to put my guitar back down in normal position here so you can see what I'm doing. And then finally, pressure. So if we get our placement correct, when we get our hand position correct, it actually will take very little pressure. If you're having to use, and we want to avoid excessive pressure for a couple of reasons. One, it's hard on your hands and fingers. The other reason is that it'll actually bend the note out of tune if we put too much pressure on. So we want to get right behind that fret. So if you're using a lot of pressure, I would really suggest you go back and make sure your placement is right. That's the big thing. And then your position. Now, speaking of positions, there's a hand position, but then there's also an idea on guitar of the position on the neck, which is a finger position. So right now I'm in first position, and what that means is that I've assigned my first finger to the first fret, second finger to the second fret, third finger to the third fret, fourth finger to the fourth fret. This is actually the hardest place to play because the frets are at their widest location. So I'm going to suggest you go from the first position to the second, third, fourth, all the way up to the fifth position. And this is a little easier area. The strings are under less tension here. The frets are a little closer. What I'd like you to do is to work on just playing what I call the 4-finger exercise, which is we're going to play the first finger on the fifth fret, second finger, third finger, fourth finger. You can repeat, and actually it's good to repeat because it forces you to keep the pressure down to go like this. And notice I'm picking down and up. I'm alternating with my right hand. A great thing to do is to start on the second string and make sure that you're not interfering with the first string or the third string. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to pick the second string while fretting it on the fifth fret with my first finger. And then I'm going to play the open first string, which happens to be the same note. You can hear they're the same. And then I'm going to play the second string and the third string to make sure that my first finger is not interfering with the first string or the third string. I'm going to move to the 6th fret with my second finger, do the same thing. Third finger on the 7th fret, 4th finger. Now this will be very difficult for you as a beginner. So just, again, patience. This is a good time where fake it till you make it is a good strategy. And then of course you could do the next string. All the way down. And you'll notice that my wrist is having to bend a little bit there. Some other things, just when you're trying to get your hand position, be aware that this wrist is really where we make all the corrections. We don't use our if you're using your elbow or your shoulder, you're not doing the correct thing. You should really have a pretty neutral shoulder and elbow. Everything's coming from here. We're making our adjustments here in my left hand, and we're also making some adjustments with my thumb, whether it's a little bit forward or backward. We can do this a bit, and it'll shift a little as we go across the neck. So I'll just play across the neck and you watch what my thumb might do. You see it's down in the center more. So it can shift. I don't know if you can see that. Let me do that again. And I'm kind of exaggerating the motion a little bit just so you can see it's okay to move across. But in general, we want to be on that upper shoulder, especially when we're playing chords. All right, so I think that's all we need to know about our left hand positioning. So happy playing, and we will see you at lesson 6.